Welcome to the Wealth and Purpose Podcast, where people who are led by their hearts come to learn the secrets to creating wealth in a way that feels really good and live their purpose fully in the process. I'm your host, Patty Lennon. I'm an ex-type A corporate banker turned intuitive business coach. I'm also a wife, a mom to 2 preteens, a professor, Girl Scout leader, and well, hey, you get it. Like you, I wear a lot of hats. Whether you're looking for inspiration to get started or strategies to get growing, I am here to help you create abundance in every area of your life and business. Welcome. Well, hello there. I am really excited to talk to you today about some advice that I once took from an Indiana Jones movie. Now, Indiana Jones didn't know he was giving me advice. But in the process of watching this particular scene from one of the Indiana Jones movies, I had the way forward in my business permanently imprinted on my brain. And so the one scene from the movie was where Indiana Jones has to cross the invisible bridge. And if you haven't seen it before, Google it because it's so fun. But essentially, the only way he can get across this big cavernous gap is by stepping forward. And when he steps forward, the step appears, but it looks as if there's nothing there. The bridge is invisible. And the only way that the step shows up is that he trusts enough to put his foot down in front of him in seemingly empty air. And I think for a lot of us in life, whether you run a business or you work for someone else, you're raising children, you're launching a nonprofit, you're doing some other project in the world, you're a creative. There's so many times in life where what we want to achieve is so far away. And it looks like this big cavernous gap between where we are and where we're going. And in past episodes, I've talked about we do our 100%, which means we do what we know we can do and the universe takes over. But what happens if the step forward isn't even clear, that it seems like we know what we're doing or we know what we're supposed to do, but it feels, even the next step feels scary. And that's where I like to use that metaphor or that scene from the Indiana Jones movie to inspire me and to get me moving forward. Now, of course, you have to actually believe that there are magical forces in the world to trust enough to put your foot forward. What was so interesting in the receiving school, we just started this week. And so each week I am offering a reading for the week, an oracle card reading for the week. What energy will most support us in receiving, in bringing into our lives what we most want to receive? And the reading from this week, which is week 1, was ascend the mountain, keep moving forward. And so, gotta be honest, this is the receiving school. I wasn't thrilled with the advice that the thing to be able to receive that we needed to embrace was to do more, because for all of the people in the receiving school, they are overgivers. I'm a recovering overgiver. We tend to do too much. But what I realized with that reading is that we do tend to do too much, but we don't always do the right things. And by the right things, I mean the things that are going to move our dreams forward. There are things that are going to move our biggest desires forward, our biggest fantasies, things that feel magical. Do we take enough time and energy on those? And so I asked for more advice, some clarity around what that card meant. And the second card that I pulled was Journey by Moonlight. And so the deck that I was reading from was Denise Linn's Sacred Traveler deck, in case you're interested. And what the Journey by Moonlight card indicates is that it's time to embrace magic. So that's what really inspired this podcast, because that was the whole essence of the reading. And of course, that is the energy for the people in the receiving school. But my guess is it will probably serve all of us this week, because energies tend to move in patterns and they affect, I find that if multiple clients are needing a piece of information, a lot of people in my life are needing that information. And by the way, if any of this is calling to you and you're curious, there's still time to come into the receiving school. Week 1 is just underway. you still have plenty of time to get caught up and participate in this amazing 6-week program. We're already seeing little and big blossoms of receiving happening for our members. And I'd love for you to be a part of it. You can check it out at www.thereceivingschool.com. Back to the message of Indiana Jones and this advice of moving forward on this invisible bridge. When the step in front of us feels so scary because it looks like we're going to be placing ourselves in the middle of just air and what's going to happen. And what I will tell you is there has never been a time in my life where I've known to take the step forward, felt like that maybe I was stepping into the void, and yet been safe and protected, and it was the best decision ever. And this is a follow-up also to last week's podcast about having the courage to get lost. Because this is all part of it, is once you find the courage to get lost, then how do you move forward when it's so not clear? And, I've talked in the past about asking for signs. Signs are wonderful and they're amazing. And this just happened to me. I was finding all of the work I've been doing around receiving in the Receiving School has somewhat felt like stepping into the void. This is really a very different type of offering. This is different content than I've really offered publicly before. It's definitely consistent with a lot of what I've done with my private clients and what I share in, smaller retreats that I've hosted. And of course, it should have been obvious to me that this is the content that my clients at the retreats, people most respond to, but sometimes the obvious eludes us, right? But then when we finally see it and we're like, okay, let's move forward. But there was also not a lot that I had built on this messaging. So how did I take this step forward? How would I take the next step forward? And I just kept doing the next thing that felt right and the next thing that felt right. And I would ask for signs. And interestingly enough, at the Wealth and Purpose retreat a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the caterpillar to butterfly metaphor, which really probably has a lot to do with what I'm talking about today. And that just popped into my head. And what I like to share about that metaphor, because it is such an overused metaphor, is that what most people don't talk about when they talk about that metaphor is that when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and starts to go through the metamorphosis process, it's literally digesting all of the caterpillar cells inside itself. And the butterfly cells are waiting dormant, ready to manifest themselves as wings and other butterfly parts to turn itself into a butterfly. But those butterfly parts will not do anything until the very last caterpillar cell is gone. And basically it, requires of itself that it completely lets go of who it was in order to start to become who it will be. Not one single cell can be left. And I think most of us can understand what that feels like, to not want to leave a part of what we understand behind, to step forward into the void. I mean, can you imagine when that caterpillar is giving up the last bit of its essence, about to jump into the butterfly existence, having no experience of what that is, other than to know that it's its destiny? I mean, if that ain't the Indiana Jones invisible bridge, I don't know what is, right? Well, whenever I've told that story and whenever I think about it, I guess I always see myself in some stage of metamorphosis. I think that's just always where I feel like I am, in some stage of letting go of the past and moving forward. I think we all do, especially those of us who are focused on transformation. And I honestly didn't even realize that I was seeing myself as still inside the cocoon, or maybe just starting to emerge from the cocoon. And so we had a follow-up call to the retreat, and I was talking to the attendees about that metaphor again, because it came up for a few people. And one of our attendees couldn't make that call, but she had watched it later that day on replay. Now, at that time, I was, like I said, moving forward with this information and this content about receiving and the Receiving School and all of the messaging around it, and feeling like I was stepping out into the void. And so I kept asking my guides and my angels and my loved ones for signs, and I was getting them. I was absolutely getting them, and it was very comforting. But the biggest sign came between that attendee and one other attendee. So that attendee emailed me and she said, I just want to let you know my daughter's watching this with me. And she said, that lady's a butterfly. And that message hit me between the eyes. It hit me right in the heart because I realized that was the message I was missing. I'm not in the cocoon anymore. I'm not emerging from the cocoon. I am done with the metamorphosis and it's time to take off. It's time to move with this. And the thing is, the very final stage of that metamorphosis, when the butterfly finally emerges from the cocoon, is that it must sit still on a branch and allow the wind to dry off its wings. And so there's a period where when we've emerged from the cocoon, where it's important for us to stay still and to let the universe ready us for flight, right? I maybe even was holding on to the hope that that's where I was. But that little girl's message for me was so clear. Like, nope, you do not get to stay still, my friend. It is time to go, go, go. And so I was really just feeling the joy of that and also a little bit of the fear of it. And a week later, I get a gift in the mail from one of our other attendees who had, a transformative experience at the retreat. And I open the package and there's a beautiful thank you note in it and a gift. And when I take out the gift, it's a jewelry pouch with a butterfly right on it. And the name of the company is Chrysalis. And it was just such a clear message to me that there is nothing left for that change to take place. It is done. And sometimes that is the scariest place to be, to know that all of the change has happened. And now nothing more but then to move forward stands in front of us. And so if this is resonating with you, I want you to know that as you step out from that branch, right, that your wings are going to work. They are. Because this is a magical world. It is a magical world that loves you and supports you. And there is a divine being, whatever words you use. I don't want you to get caught up in the language, but there is a divine being that holds you in complete safety and love. And then beyond that, there are so many helpers. There are guides and there are angels and there are your loved ones that knew you. And then there's your ancestors who may not have known you on the earth, but have been watching over you and guiding you. You have help. You do. And it is safe. As scary as it is, it is safe. Because the thing is, as scary as it is to move forward, consider what it would feel like to be stuck on that step you recognize a year from now. What would that life be? That's far scarier. So if you need just one piece of motivation to get you to move forward, other than the fact that we are in a magical universe, think about that. Because you deserve so much. And it is waiting for you. Have a wonderful day, my love. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share this podcast with them. And if you're feeling really generous, I'd love for you to leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps us reach many more people, and it fills my heart with so much joy when I hear what you had to say about what you heard. I am cheering for your success. Have an amazing day.